something, but what I have is not what you're looking for. I'm not going to move what you asked me to move. I'm not going to deliver what you asked me to deliver. I'm not going to take away what you asked me to take away. He says, but you're going to have to go through what you're going through. He says, but I've got something, and the word grace means God's unmerited favor. He says, my grace, when you look at grace, it means you don't earn it. You don't deserve it. You can't pay for it. It is not based on your education. It means God's special favor. Do I have any witness? And so when I begin to look at it real closely, he says, my grace or my favor is sufficient to keep you if you want to be kept. Now I begin to look at it closely, because if you look at the word favor, which means all of us don't have favor. Are y'all don't hear me? Not that we can't get it, it's because we don't want it. I've got children, and in the midst of my children, that sometimes there's some that want to cling to me and do things that I need them to do. But then there are others that I have to ask and beg and keep on telling me over and over, I need you to do certain things. Now when it comes down to me handing out a blessing, I'm sure I'm not going to keep on blessing the one that I got to keep on begging. But every now and then, that one that knows me, that ones that don't mind helping me, that one that look out for me, that one that don't mind doing what I ask him to do. Every now and then, I slip them something, and that's because they got my favor. Do I have it with me? Now, if the truth be told, I love all of them the same. Y'all ain't hear me? They all belong to me, but there's some of them I got to stay on. I got to keep worrying. They trouble me. But then there's others that they got my favor. Y'all ain't hear me? Do I have any witness? Now, I know many of y'all go with me that got children, but no, you don't treat them all the same. You might as well tell the truth about it. Out of all of them, you got one or two that you got favor. Look at my children looking at me now. Which one got the favor? When he begins to say, my grace, which means my favor, is sufficient to keep you if you want to be kept. What Paul had to do was go back to the drawing board, because he says, now in your weakness, I'm made strong. And as I begin to look at the text, I said, how in the world when I begin to get weak, I get strong at the same time? He says, I begin to decrease, that he may increase. And because it looks like I'm getting physically weak, I'm spiritually gaining strength. Watch it up. So having a witness. And so what he told Paul to do was stop complaining about your situation. Stop praying about your situation. What you need to do is get on my good side. He says, I'm going to give you some favor, which means grace is sufficient to keep you. Now, when you look at God's grace, many of us try to bring it in and grab up enough grace for next week. We try to grab up enough grace for next month. But you got to understand that grace, that was not what he's talking about. He says, I'm going to give you enough for the day. I know he is. But the scripture says, don't even think about what you're going to eat or drink or wear for tomorrow. But tomorrow is not promised. So all I need is enough grace for the day. And so what he was telling Paul was that even though the devil comes around me, even though this message of Satan is always entertaining, he says, I'm going to keep you from cussing because I'll give you enough grace. He says, I'm going to keep you from lying because I'm going to give you enough grace. He says, I'm going to keep you from throwing in the towel. He says, because my grace is sufficient. Well, when you look at the word sufficient, it means enough.